what do you think a person needs to become or go into starting as a cybersecurity architect?
Yeah, look, I think you do need a lot of knowledge around the basics of IT, I suppose, of infrastructure. You need to have a good idea how networking works. For example, you need to have a good idea how operating systems work, how computers work. You need to know a little bit about everything, because you'll sit in meetings and you'll have a network engineer asking you networking questions, and then you'll have a server engineer asking you server questions, and the CISO asking you security questions. I always think a good architect is somebody that's been in the trenches in the IT help desk. And moving into quite a senior cybersecurity position, I was like, oh, maybe I'm an imposter. Maybe I shouldn't be here, So then having to prove to myself that no, that's not the case. Like I really do need to be here, and I am worthy and I can contribute.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and cyber heroes and cyber fans, welcome to another episode. As you know, I'm your host, Mr. Fingers, the one and only, as you know, that cybersecurity guy. And today's guest, what can I say? We have somebody who builds stuff and also breaks stuff at the same time. He's an accomplished cybersecurity architect with the rich background in IT systems, security, and infrastructure management. Now, he currently lives around Johannesburg, South Africa. He brings a very intensive career spanning multiple roles and also in industries in the tech sector as well. From his start as an IT technician back in 2008 to his recent and current role right now as a cybersecurity architect. His career journey is a testament to his dedication to mastering and evolving the world of IT and security. He's also honed his skills in the expertise across various industries, from endpoint security, cloud security to zero trust architect. His leadership experience has actually made him such a phenomenal human being, from being a general manager to an IT operations manager to a systems engineer and to now working as a cybersecurity architect. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cyber heroes and cyber fans, please help me welcome my one and only friend, Michael Rice. Mr. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, and you, Mr. Fingers. Thanks for that amazing introduction. You're making me blush.
I think the reason why I do such an introduction, because I think most of the time we forget our accomplishments and we just continue moving on with our lives. And until we reflect back and see what we have achieved and where are we right now, it makes us think like, oh wow, I've achieved so much in such a, either a short span of time or either a long span of time, but we'd never sat back and reflected on where we are now and how long did it take you to be where you are.
I mean, no, 100%. And I think it's good to be proud of your achievements as well. I think it's a good thing to be humble, but also to be proud of your achievements. And I think, I've been through the trenches, and how I got to where I am. It's a bit of a story. I mean, I think in my 20s, I'd been doing odd jobs. I was working in bars as a salesperson, this and that, like loads of different things. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And one of my friends told me, like, why don't you study IT? You seem to be quite good at it. Because I'd been tinkering around with and tampering with computers for quite a while by then. So I decided, let me try that, and then having started as a junior, almost intern after studying, getting paid almost nothing, and eventually slowly working my way up to a relatively high position, I suppose, from a technical perspective in IT. And then, I clearly remember, I was in 2015, I was working for a company, and there was an issue. Our mail kept getting blacklisted, the IP address. And I was like, why is this happening? So eventually I found a Windows Server 2000 server. This was 2015, in Durban. just connected to the internet, like hadn't been patched or updated in, I don't know, 10 years or something. And
True.
it had a botnet on it. And that was sending out spam mail, and it was participating in a botnet, and subsequently the IP address got blocked. And that really tweaked my interest, And from there I started studying a bit on my own, and like really got interested in cybersecurity and in hacking and offensive security, I suppose. But I kept doing IT, and I started getting into firewalls. I started working on those a bit. I started working on the network security side of things, a bit of antivirus stuff, etc. But I never really got into cybersecurity, and it's difficult to break into cybersecurity once you're doing something else, as a lot of people might know. So I had this passion, but, I didn't really have a door into the industry. So what happened was, there was some disputes with an old employer. I eventually quit that job, and I started where I am currently. And there was a cybersecurity division there, but I started in the IT department. And I was eyeing this cybersecurity department and thinking like, maybe this is my way in, and I was getting a bit tired of IT, to be honest, and being like a silent cybersecurity guy, but not actually actively doing cybersecurity, and seeing these guys in the cybersecurity department doing cool, like red team, blue team things, and it seemed very cool, something that I wanted to do. So luckily what happened was I started working closely with the head of the cybersecurity department. He's actually now my manager, my boss. And I think he started seeing that I would be quite a good fit in cybersecurity, So I started joining some BAS simulations, breach and attack simulations with them. And eventually a position came up as a cybersecurity architect, and I applied and I got the position, and I think that's how it happened.
During your transition, obviously moving from the IT side to going to cybersecurity, what challenge did you face?
So I think the challenges for me was firstly, the mind shift change, thinking only security and not thinking like, is the server gonna fall over in the data center or whatever, but think about like, we need to secure the network. And I had been thinking of that, but like, and getting that offensive, like adversarial mindset of, okay, but now I need to start, because I thought I knew a lot about security, but once I started, I was like, oh, I don't actually know that much. There's still a lot to learn, and there always is, So shifting to that perspective and learning every day. So every day, just reading what are the new attack techniques around? How can I defend against that? And I suppose for me, it was also doubting myself quite a bit, I think that's also a big thing. And moving into quite a senior cybersecurity position, I was like, cool, maybe I'm an imposter. Maybe I shouldn't be here, So then having to prove to myself that no, that's not the case. Like, I really do need to be here, and I am worthy, and I can contribute. But it's a mind shift into a cybersecurity mind shift, and it's amazing. Now I walk into a restaurant and I look at the Wi-Fi and I'm like, I wonder if this Wi-Fi is secured, or is there a team viewer icon on the POS system over there, and would I be able to connect it? So I think it's an absolute mind shift into thinking that way, and into thinking about how do we secure an environment, and how do we break into an environment? If I know I'm going to break in somewhere, I can secure it, Yeah.
And that's so true, man. And you mentioned something about imposter syndrome, and I think we have all faced that imposter syndrome. A lot of people, especially in cybersecurity, either they're coming into cybersecurity or some of them have been in cybersecurity. We sometimes face imposter syndrome. What do you think that happens? Because you work with the team as well. Because I had an opportunity to work with you as well. I mean, your guys are good, and something probably maybe as the gents, as the guys, and also ladies as well in the team, your team have spoken about it. But from your perspective and your experience, what do you think causes this imposter syndrome?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult one. I think it's such a connected world as well. So we watch, YouTube videos about guys that are seriously good at what they do, and you compare yourself to them. You look at posts on LinkedIn and some threat researchers, and there's a few that come to mind. And then you think like, geez, I'm not as good as that guy. I don't know nearly as much as him, maybe I'm not in the right place. Maybe I shouldn't be doing. So, we don't doubt ourselves. And, the mind's an interesting thing. It'll sell us lies, and it'll feed those fears. And a lot of times it's nonsense, and a lot of times if I face those fears, I'm actually a lot better than I think I am, and all those things are in my head. Nobody else is seeing it. Nobody's looking at me and thinking, well, this guy's useless. It's all fears in my head. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I don't really know what the cause is, but I do think, because the world is so connected and we can literally see these superheroes of cybersecurity on videos, we think like, wow, man, I'm really not that good. This guy's seriously good,
Yeah, and just to add on to what you're saying, that's so true, because I've seen how most of the time imposter syndrome starts. It's comparison. As you mentioned, LinkedIn is one of them, where somebody starts posting about a certain new threat, how they break it down, and you're like, yeah, I don't know this language now. What are they saying? Yeah. And then now we start comparing ourselves, like, I don't think I'm good in my job because this person is good in their job and stuff like that. But the real thing behind it is that pretty much you don't know whether this person, has been in the game for so long, and your journey probably might be still starting, or you still learning, because as my mentor always says, that there's no such thing as failure. It's only lessons. So you just have to learn through that. And at the current moment, you work for a very great company, big company as well, and you work as a cybersecurity architect. And most people don't know what a cybersecurity architect is. So do you mind breaking down your role in terms of, first of all, what is a cybersecurity architect? And you, as Michael, what is that you do? I know your day differs every day, but what is that you do basically on a weekly basis?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll use the analogy of a house. So the cybersecurity architect, what we do is you'll have this house and it's very insecure. It doesn't have any security gates. It doesn't have any fences around it. Doesn't have an alarm system. And we'll assess this situation. This house is like a company that we're assessing, or an environment, and see and look at it. Okay, the house is built like this. It's got rooms over there. It's got a corridor over there. It's got a garden here. How do we secure this? Which type of gate do we need? Which type of fence do we need? How do we need to build this fence? Where do we place the alarms? What type of alarms do we need? Do we need access control? And what type of access control do we need? And that's basically, what I do. So do an assessment of a company, look at what their gaps are from a security perspective, network security, the app security, endpoint security, and then fit a solution, tailor a solution for them, and design it so that it fits their environment and it secures their environment. Once I implement those measures, I generally we do documents and we ensure all that's documented. And then we hand over to our managed detection and response team, which is like the old SOC type of team. And they run this stuff. All the gates are there now, the alarm systems there, there's CCTV cameras and monitors, and they're watching for threats and they're triaging those alerts, and I do also, when there's a real incident, I jump in there, and I assist as well. But that's basically what I do. That and consulting, but mostly the design of and the implementation of security solutions.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy your job? And how likely would you recommend it to somebody else?
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. I'd say it's an 11, and I say that, but sometimes, as it is with work, sometimes you're like, oh, damn it, I hate this project and this client, and I wish it would end. But all in all, I'm very happy, and I'm where I want to be in my life, and I'm enjoying what I do, and I think I would definitely recommend it wholeheartedly. And I think to get there, all you need is some passion, and you just need to go for it,
And actually, that was actually my next question. in terms of if somebody's watching this, I'm like, Michael, you've just inspired me on becoming a cybersecurity architect. I didn't even know what it was, but now you've just broken it down in terms of making it a very interesting career as well. What do you think a person needs to become or go into starting as a cybersecurity architect?
Yeah, look, I think you do need a lot of knowledge around the basics of IT, I suppose, of infrastructure, so you need to have a good idea how networking works. For example, you need to have a good idea how operating systems work, how computers work, how the cloud works, and how all of these systems, business systems, speak to each other, how they're put together. You need to know a little bit about everything, because you'll sit in meetings and you'll have a network engineer asking you networking questions. And then you'll have a server engineer asking you server questions and the CISO asking you security questions. So a very good foundation in all those systems. So I always think a good architect is somebody that's been in the trenches in an IT help desk, for a few years and learned all those basics. And then also a very good concept of what security is and security principles, design principles, and these things change the whole time. So you also have to have a thirst for knowledge, keep learning, every day, try and read up on the latest stuff. So I'd say that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Any platform or in terms of even spinning up a VM for them to be able to practice as well? Do you think?
No, 100%. So generally you need some resources for that, so sometimes, if you've got a laptop with a relative amount of RAM and some CPU space or desktop computer, you can probably use VirtualBox. VirtualBox or VMware Workstation Pro is actually free now for personal use. So you can use that. There's a few cloud platforms as well that you can use. And you don't have to have huge things. And I would say there's some great online courses, around Active Directory. How do you build a domain controller? How do you join a workstation to that? And then what tools do threat actors use to attack that? The best way to learn is to push the buttons and to get involved and practically do this stuff. If I read this stuff in a book, I'm not going to learn that much.
And I think right now I want to talk about something quite interesting. A lot of people might not know this. Most people who are in cybersecurity might understand this, but there's something called Zero Trust Security Architect. And in your career field, you have built a lot of that. So what do you think, it's becoming such an important framework for organizations, and what are the key challenges when it comes to building a Zero Trust Security Architect?
No, it's a great question. And Zero Trust architecture is an awesome concept, and it's been around a while. And it's I think quite difficult to implement sometimes. Where the concept comes from is we used to think like, if you're sitting in the office and this person is logging in and I see, this identity is logging in from the office, it must be him, and that's no longer the case. As we know, sometimes threat actors are getting more sophisticated and targeted. With Zero Trust architecture, you want to explicitly verify. So I need to verify it you, even if you're sitting at the office, is it really you logging in? So, and there's a few ways that we do that, generally what we do is a kind of two-pronged approach, the identity and the endpoint or the device. So we ensure with identity, with the sign-in risk, are you signing in from a location you usually sign in? Are you signing in from a computer, usually signing from a browser, usually sign in? Is there anything anomalous? Are you using an app that you don't usually use to sign in? Then on the device, is this a managed device? Is this the device you always sign in with? Or is this some other device, some weird unknown device? Has that device got an antivirus on it or an EDR? Has it got disk encryption, etc., etc., etc.? And we need to verify all those things. Is that device compliant? Is the sign-in risky? Is this user risky? And if all those boxes are checked, then you get access. Some of the challenges that we have is, if you want to verify only unmanaged devices are allowed on a network, there's issues if you've got a lot of contractors, for example. Now you've got people with their own laptops, you have to exclude them from those policies order for the business to function, because you have to have a balance between security and operational capabilities,
Yeah.
Another thing we've had quite a lot is people saying like, but how can you say you don't trust us, where people actually, we've had companies saying like, you can't use that term, zero trust. The people don't like it,
Yeah.
we've had to like just explain, it's not that we don't trust you, we don't trust that the login is you, and you need to verify that. Also on a network, zero trust can go very deep. And it's a great measure, but it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to implement simply because of operational hindrance sometimes, You need to have availability, integrity, and confidentiality with the CIA triangle, and keeping that availability while still securing the network with zero trust is the challenge, I think.
Yeah, I think also just to add on to that, do you also think it also depends on the type of infrastructure the client has as well?
No, for sure. No, definitely. And a lot of times there's extra technology that you have to. Firstly, there's a redesign, but then there's also a lot of times there's additional technology, additional licensing. For example, if you already have a technology, you might not have licensing for zero trust policies and adaptive access policies and conditional access policies, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so no, definitely. And budget is also a consideration. A lot of times people don't have a budget for these things. So then you have to try and make do with what you have. Yeah, so those are all considerations. And I think it's, it depends on the environment. Sometimes you have to do with less of a budget and less technology, and try to implement as much zero trust measures as possible within that, within those limitations.
And you've worked with wide ranges of security and technologies, over the years of time, especially also since you're a cybersecurity architect. And if you could recommend one tool or two or three, up to you, this is up to you, in terms of technology that every cybersecurity or person who's starting out in cybersecurity or cybersecurity professional should master, what tools would it be and why?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And, tools are all good and well, and I will mention some now, but I do also want to mention, I think, to get into cybersecurity and to really understand what you're looking at in the tools, you need to get to know basic stuff like operating systems, Linux and Windows. How does it work? Where do your files stored? How do applications work? How can they be abused? Because otherwise you won't know what the tools are telling you. So having said that, there's a bit of a move away from SIEM-based systems, so security information and event management systems, where you send logs to those systems. And in the old days, people used to look at big screens and look through events, comb through events and stuff. And we've got machine learning and some stuff that helps with that, and what's called XDR now, extended detection and response. Definitely look at behavioral-based technology. So EDR is a start, endpoint detection and response, which is now turned into XDR, but that is not looking at virus file hash necessarily, but behavior. So tactics, techniques, and procedures of threat actors and technology that can pick that up. So with an XDR, what you're doing is you're feeding signals from your network, from your endpoints, from your cloud, from all these different devices and vectors into that platform. And when an alert triggers, you can see the whole kill chain from the firewall to the endpoint. And there's a lot more places that you can check. So I definitely say EDR, XDR, those kind of tools. And you get some free ones as well that you can play with. This doesn't have to be very expensive stuff. Kali Purple is a great SOC in a box kind of, and it's free, the image, and it's got free open source tools like that SIEM solutions that you can. There's a few SIEM solutions as well where you can practice sending logs to it, read the manuals, try and figure it out, because I think that's the best way to learn, and there's a lot of open source tools you can use for that. So I'd say SIEM, definitely send events there, see what Windows event logs look like, which logs are important in security. And look what behavior you're looking for. If somebody attacks Active Directory, what does that look like in an alert? And what does that causality chain look like? So yeah, I think there's loads of tools, but I think getting into cybersecurity, there's loads of open source free stuff that you can play with.
That was actually a perfect answer, actually, because you gave the answer in two ways. You gave the answer as a cybersecurity engineer and also as a cybersecurity architect as well, in terms of investigation, in terms of also building as well. So that's something which I really wanted to know, because at the end of the day, I believe that if somebody's starting out in cybersecurity and they want to learn how, logs flow and everything, basically they need to become their own cybersecurity architect by building their own, VM, by building and integrating their own SIM tools as well. So they start off from that. And then once everything starts ingesting, this is when they start becoming obviously analysts by analyzing everything, investigating stuff, documenting their stuff. Everything all correlates all together. And you mentioned something very important when you were starting out, and you said it's very hard getting into cybersecurity. And I've heard that a lot, and I've seen it as well. Do you mind explaining it a bit further by what did you mean by saying that, in terms of it's very hard getting into cybersecurity or putting your foot forward into cybersecurity?
I think it's interesting because there's a huge skill shortage, right, in cybersecurity. So you would think it would not be difficult because there's a lot of job openings, I suppose, out there and a lot of opportunity. But yeah, it does seem like perhaps there aren't enough. For an older person, it was difficult for me because I already had bills to pay and a son to look after and stuff like that. But I also do think perhaps we need more programs for interns and people, to really at a base level try and get people into cybersecurity, because I have seen that it's very difficult to get good cybersecurity people. And that's just maybe because there's not enough exposure, not enough training. But the internet is out there. So, if you do training, if you do look for it, the information is there. But I think it's very difficult to comprehend what part of cybersecurity you want to get into as well, because there's so many different. You get analysts, you get network security engineers, you get architects, etc., etc. So cybersecurity is a broad term. What exactly do you want to do? And I think once you figure that out, focus on that and try to get in there. But it's difficult. I mean, I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn from people asking how can they get into cybersecurity? And because I don't own a company, I can't really hire them. I can't really, I would just say, try and, apply as much as you can and try and learn as much as you can before those interviews.
Yeah. And that's so true. I've seen it. I know guys who've been, one of them, he's been trying to get into cybersecurity for, I think, 2 years now. And he's a pen tester. He's trying to get into pen testing, and it's been 2 years right now. He's about to go on 3 now, still looking for a job. There hasn't been any luck, but I'm not saying that there's not going to be luck for other people watching this. What I'm saying is that I also truly believe that, as Michael said, asking, go out there, ask, knock on doors, because we all can apply for the job, but if you don't ask, you'll never have. So you have to ask on LinkedIn, reach out to people, go to events, network with people. That's very important as well.
I think differentiate yourself from others and really try your best. I think the industry is going in South Africa, where we're located. I think the industry is still growing. There's maybe a bit less opportunity, but 100% differentiate yourself and really go for it.
What do you think about, do you think we in South Africa currently right now, because I know cybersecurity is, I wouldn't say fairly new, but it's starting now to grow. Do you think currently right now in South Africa, are we taking cybersecurity seriously or not, in terms of the business side of things?
Yeah, so not seriously enough, I think. And I think we are busy. There is a lot more awareness than there used to be. We still, I get a lot of situations where it's not being taken seriously, and it's only taken seriously once there's a breach. And I mean, I've been contacted, and my team's been contacted into an ad hoc IR situation where the ransomware's already happened, the systems are encrypted, and those people didn't want to spend money on cybersecurity. Now they do, now they do. Previously, it was just a function of IT, and unfortunately, it's too important to leave it in the hands of IT, which sounds, from previous IT guy, it sounds a bit, but no, it's absolutely not being taken seriously enough. But I do think it is growing awareness. I do think it is starting to grow, but I don't think people realize what it is, because you don't need a huge budget necessarily. You just need to have common sense, Close those public-facing systems, ensure you've got awareness training amongst your people, and basic security systems, basic email security systems can go a long way for small businesses, So, yeah, it's definitely, I think there's still a lot of awareness that's needed, but it is growing within the business community, at least.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And then, before we close off, what is your favorite quote that you go by, or that has motivated you? How does it keep you going?
Yeah, okay, so I have one that I kind of live by, and it's actually not like one of your famous people quotes. It's from an old movie, like an action movie with Jason Statham, and there was I think it was called The Mechanic, and there was a part in it where he had a gun that said in Latin, "Victory loves preparation," and that kind of stuck with me. And I kind of live by that now. I make sure every morning I start work early so that I prepare for the day, so that I'm ready for everything, and I'm organized in that way. And I think that's been a large part of my success, and I don't necessarily work until 10 o'clock at night every night, but I ensure I'm prepared for what I need to do. So yeah, that's victory loves preparation.
I love that. I love that quote. And then before you leave, what piece of advice would you like to leave people with currently right now? Somebody saying, "Hey, Michael, I'm quite inspired by this interview as well. I'd like to reach out probably maybe on LinkedIn, or, I want to also get into cybersecurity and become a cybersecurity architect. Where do I start?"
Yeah, I mean, I think you just need to pour your heart and soul into it. Ensure you know what's going on. So I've got some news sources that I read every morning, staying up to date with all that cybersecurity information. Keep studying, and I think once you do that, you'll get to a point where your general knowledge about security will be good enough that you'll impress in interviews, and once you get interviewed and you're living cybersecurity every day, every morning you're reading that stuff, you're studying on your own when you get a chance, you become what you do. So once you start doing that, sooner or later, you're going to become Mr. Cybersecurity, like you, Mr. Fingers, and then I'm sure as you start knocking at doors, something will open, so just pour your heart and soul into it. I think the universe will reply, but you need to take chances, yeah.
For sure, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time. And yeah, just thank you for dropping all the nuggets, knowledge, experience to our cyber heroes out there, man.